talk to you about that too.
Yes.
Because you brought up Bostrom. What are your Bostrom relies on? I mean, he was relying on theories in terms of like mathematical theories of probability to say that he thinks it's more likely that we're in a simulation.
Yeah, he has the thing is our simulation is designed by hand. Like, I'm going to craft these things. What you realize is all you need to do is just set some initial conditions, set some really basic rules, and allow the system to grow. As long as it can grow arbitrarily, just crazy stuff, amazing stuff can happen. From simplicity, complexity can emerge. And that, if you study this a little bit closer, just like watch it, people can watch a Game of Life on YouTube and think about what it's showing, like for 10 minutes. It'll blow your mind. The fact that from simplicity, arbitrary complexity, beauty can emerge is like incredible. So for the simulation, the creator of the simulation is probably some 13-year-old nerd living in his mom's basement. Is probably just set some rules in this video game and press play, and then arbitrary complexity can emerge. It can have a Joe Rogan, it can have an Elon Musk, all the technologies that we've developed, and probably millions of other alien species that are living throughout our universe.
Jesus.
So that to me, the cellular automata reveals that the simulation is much easier to create than we might think. But there's a lot of variability in the kinds of simulations we'll create. Like, I think the simulation hypothesis thinks there's like one, but I think there's going to be a lot of varieties. There's a lot of possible different rule sets. There's a lot of different physical mediums in which these simulations could be created. It can be a completely virtual world. The role of consciousness, whether you make most people conscious or not, whether most of them are philosophical zombies, or they're just like non-player characters, and it's just you, or is your mind simulated? Like the role of suffering. So consciousness brings with it this idea of basically, subjective experience. And with subjective experience comes the idea of pain and fear and so on. The thing, again, my Russian romanticization of it, but I think fear of death is essential. Scarcity is essential for beauty, for life.
Yeah.
And that's a nice feature of this little simulation we got going on, that there could be a lot of different alternatives, I think, that could be less individualistic, less consciousness can be present in different kinds of forms. So I see there's a lot more options than those three that he highlights. And we can destroy ourselves in a lot of interesting ways. The entire civilizations, from AI to nuclear weapons to biological, to all kinds of weapons.
So it's almost like whether it's a simulation or not is almost irrelevant. The complexity of the existence and all of the various pushes and pulls that keep everything together, they're almost operating like some grand plan, whether they like it or not, whether or not a grand plan exists. All these different things are happening, and everything is moving in a very specific direction, right? It's moving towards further complexity. Like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine last night where we were talking about phones. And we were like, when are they ever going to look at a phone and say, I think we're good. We don't have to, the camera works great, signal's great, and call people, you can text people. Let's just stop innovating right here. And we were both laughing, like it's never going to happen. But even though we admit, like if you have an iPhone 11 or a Pixel 4, is that what you have?
Yeah,
it
Pixel
works.
4, yeah.
They work great. You don't really need anything better. Like in terms of the way our culture works, you get so much done on these things. You can bank on them.
Is it okay if I'm drinking all your waters, by the way?
Yeah, we have a lot of water. Yeah,
okay, cool.
Please. You're so
water.
Russian. That's very polite of you. The existence itself, whether or not there's a design to it, it seems to operate in a manner that would indicate there's a design. The design doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be a simulation. It doesn't have to be a grand plan. But it moves in the same way as if it's a grand plan.
It's weird. It's hard to put into words, but there's a different force and a momentum, like the evolutionary process, the fact that life was created, the fact that there's always a kind of a progress, and also like just like with the Native Americans, the fact that suffering seems to be a constant story that was weaving in. Like we constantly progress, but we seems to be like creating the other and torturing, and there seems to be constant suffering and war and so on through this growth process, and that seems to be death is a huge part of that, and conflict,
even social
tension.
conflict, like we were talking about social justice warriors and that type of thing. I think they almost have to exist. It's almost like the world creates a space for them, and people find a way to fill that space.
Yeah.